Now, the language that world leaders have been using to describe the latest economic turbulence has left us in no doubt of the seriousness of the situation. But are those words of wisdom making things better or worse? We'll chat about this more in a moment. But first, here's a few examples.
We're not quite staring down the barrel, but the pattern is clear. The recovery out of the recession for the advanced economies will be difficult.
Our view is that the current economic situation is entering a dangerous phase.
We now face a crisis that is the economic equivalent of war.
The world is in a danger zone. In 2008, many people said they did not see the turbulence coming. Leaders have no such excuse now.
Well, goodness me. Here with me now is David Jones, an expert in financial markets, Fletcher from the think tank 2020 Plus, which is launching a study into the effect of negative language used in news stories. Morning both. I mean, that's enough to make anybody feel depressed, really, listening to that, isn't it? The use of words, dangerous, dangerous place. How does that affect the whole psyche of what's going on?
I think it has a big effect, Louise. I think, most economists will tell you that the currency to be most devalued in recession is the currency of public confidence. And once it's damaged or devalued, it's hard to build up again. And yet we get a constant stream of words in some news media, emergency crisis, we heard some of them there. And these are emotional reinforcements.
But it's not just the news media, is it? I mean, you've got David Cameron, Christine Lagarde using those kind of words.
Yes, and I think they too reflect this general attitude of negativity. What the people need most when it comes to rapid change, including economic change, is not knowledge but hope. And so we've got to somehow find a way to present the facts but keep the cultural conversation positive or at least proactive so people have the confidence to invent.
You're an expert, David, in financial markets. Would you agree with their assessment of what is going on, first of all?
I think so. I think it's a very, very fair assessment, and I think they're saying what they're saying because it's very clear what's going on in markets, what's been going on in stock markets for the past sort of 6 weeks. So we've seen massive volatility. And if they were, I think, trying to tone down their language, then markets would think, well, politicians clearly don't have a clue or are trying to pull the wool over our eyes here. So I think it's right that at the moment they do use these sort of words.
What's the way out of it? Because they all seem to... There's not a clear message as yet, is there?
No, and this is the problem. I think this is one of the main reasons we've seen markets so jittery this week. We have plenty of speeches like this from politicians, but for some time now, no real concerted action about how to solve Greece, for example, is the immediate problem, and that's why I think markets are very nervous, because they either don't know what they're doing just yet, or they're very slow in putting into place what they think the solutions are.
Mal, from what you're saying, you think could people talk themselves out of a crisis by giving back hope? I mean, is that a realistic prospect?
I don't think that's enough on its own. That would be unrealistic. But I do think that keeping the conversation largely constructive at least gives people enough confidence. See, most people are not economists. They're not the only... Economists aren't the only ones receiving these messages. They're going out on broadcast news. It's made worse today by 24/7 rolling news and the viral effect of social media, which keeps things in the water table for much longer.
So what you're saying, it affects everybody in their sort of spending power, does it?
Yes, as economists think on their feet or think as they go, they happen to have cameras in front of them, which means that, Joe Average in the street is hearing the same thing. And after a while, there's this tone, we believe, that pulls down constructive thought, inventiveness, proactivity, all the things we need if we're going to see the economy pluck up.
OK, we've seen the markets. I mean, I was watching them this week. Jittery is probably an understatement, really, isn't it? Where are the markets on this? Are they confused as well?
I think they are. I think there's a feeling from the outside, if you don't work in financial markets, you think, actually, all these people, they know what's going on, they know the market was going to fall and then rise. But it's because of that, I think, the lack of knowing what's going to happen next at the moment, that we are seeing almost these knee-jerk reactions by markets. And I think the sophisticated markets that we have now, because of developments with electronic trading over the last 20 years, it's a great thing. But actually, in times like this, it means when everyone hits the sell button at the same time, it almost becomes a self-fulfilling thing, and everyone does. We seem to have sort of a manic depressive market from time to time with these crazy swings there today.
What was interesting yesterday, watching markets just before they closed, all of them just made it to go into the green, didn't they? So what was that? Is that about this weekend? Is that looking towards the IMF, or what was that?
I think it is. I think we had in the morning yesterday, the FTSE was down 2%. As you say, we closed the day slightly ahead on the day. And I think it is expectations about the G20 meeting this weekend that maybe we'll get finally a concerted plan of action. But unfortunately, I hate to be gloomy again, there were the same expectations a week ago ahead of the European finance ministers meeting, and we didn't get anything.
So it's very important what they say and how they say it at the end of this weekend.
Absolutely, and your point underlines the fact that human emotion is a large part of this. If the markets are up and down on an emotional swing, really, perception on the part of economists, then emotion is very important to the economy, and we can't take out the human factor.
Thank you both. Not great news, but thank you very much for talking to us this morning.